Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. For this question, it's really important that we understand what the words sum and product mean. Now, sum just means add, and product just means times. So we're going to start by adding the 5 and the 4. So that will equal 9. And then what we're going to do is find the product of 9 and 7. So we're going to multiply them together. 9 times 7, which is 63. So our answer is 63. So with this question, we need to first of all count how many sides this polygon has. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 sides. And we just need to know that a 10-sided shape is a decagon. Now we are expected to know all of the names of shapes between 3 and 10 sides, so if you don't know them already, just sit down and learn them. To find the factors of 30, we're just going to write down all the factor pairs, or all the pairs of numbers that multiply together to make 30. So 1 times 30 is 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. Now 4 doesn't go because 30 is not in the 4 times table. 5 times 6, and we notice that if we pick 6, it's just going to be 6 times 5, it's just going to be the opposite. So the factors are all the numbers that we've just written down, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. This question's all about like terms. So what we can do is we can add this 10u with this 11u to make 21u. We can also add this 6v with this plus 4v to make 10v. We can also add this 10w to this minus 6w. So 10 take away 6 is 4w, so plus 4w. But we can't add a u term to a v term to a w term. So we have to just leave them be. So our answer is 21u plus 10v plus 4w. But we can multiply them, we just can't add or subtract them. So 55% is the same as 55 over 100. And what I can do is I can divide top one of the fraction by 5. And so that is going to equal 11 over 20. Now in total there are 20 squares here because there's 5 across and 4 down. 5 times 4 is 20. And if there's 20 squares and we're looking to shade in 11 20ths, it's just going to be 11 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if we just add the amount of sides each of these shapes has, a triangle has 3 sides, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, hexagon 6. And notice what's happening with the number of edges. They're multiplied by 3. Each time they're multiplied by 3. So all we need to do is get the 15 multiplied by 3, which will be 45. So there will be 45 edges. The range is the biggest number, take away the smallest number. The biggest number in this stem-leaf diagram is found at the bottom right. So this 9 here represents 69. So it would be 69, take away, and the smallest number is always at the top left. So this 4 here represents 34. So it would be 69, take away 34, which is 35. we're going to start off by working out what 100% of 120 is. Well, that's obviously just going to be 120. And we're trying to get to 6%. So we always start off by working out 10%. It's always normally useful. And we just divide that 120 by 10, so we get 12. And we try to get 6%, so it'd be nice if I knew 5%. And 5% is nice and easy because we just halve that 10%. So that'd be 6. And if we got the 1% as well, we can get to the 6%. So to find out what 1% is, we just divide the 10% by 10 and get 1.2. So to get the 6%, we're going to add the 5% and the 1%. So we're going to add the 6 and the 1.2. And so we just do 6 plus 1.2, which is just going to be 7.2. And that's our answer. Here we have a triangle and we've got an angle of 48 degrees. We've got this right angle, which is 90 degrees, and we're looking for x. So what we need to do is we need to realise that the three angles will add up to 180 because it's a triangle. So what we're going to do to find x is just subtract the two angles which we know. So we're going to subtract the 90 degrees plus the 48 degrees from 180. And in brackets we're just going to say the reason, and it's angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So when we do that, we do 180, take away 90 plus 48, and you get 42 degrees. I'm going to start by just copying out the question. Now the word solve means find out what x is, and the first thing we do when we see solve is draw lines to the left and right of our equal sign so we can solve it. So there's two things stopping us from having x on its own. This over 5 and this take away 10. Now that take away 10 isn't in the fraction, and normally I would say to get rid of the fractions first, but because that take away 10 is just sitting there on its own, we need to get rid of that first. So what I'm going to do is the opposite of take away 10 to both sides. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. That will leave the x over 5 on the left hand side, and 0 plus 10 is 10. So we want to get rid of this over 5, but what does over 5 mean? Well, it means divided by 5. So the opposite, the inverse of divided by 5 is times 5. So I'm going to do that to both sides. So we're left with x on the left hand side, 10 times 5 is 50. So x equals 50. So the first thing we're going to do is write this as a ratio between the fractions. So we're going to have green to black. Now it says that a quarter of the counters are black, and therefore the remaining counters will be green. So if a quarter are black, that leaves 3/4 to be green. And what we can do here is on both sides of the ratio, what I'm going to do is just times it by 4. So I'm just going to times 4 both sides. So 3 divided by 4 times 4, because over 4 just means divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 times by 4 just gets rid of the fraction. And 1 divided by 4 times 4 is just going to be 1. Now this might surprise some people because they will probably think it's a ratio of 4 to 1, but we can show here that it's a ratio of 3 to 1. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. So we're going to start off by filling out this table. So 0 times 1, 0 times 2, 0 times 3, 1 times those, 2 times those, and 3 times those. And we're looking for the probability that the product, which just means that when we times them together, will be more than 2. So which of these are more than 2? Let's circle all the ones that are more than 2. And to work out a probability, it's always the successful outcomes over the total amount. So the successful ones are the ones I've circled, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The total are all of them together, where it's a 4x4 grid, so it would be 16 in total. And so the probability that the product will be more than 2 will be 9 over 16. So our sequence, our nth term, is 20 times n plus 6. For the fifth term, n would be 5, so it's 20 times 5 plus 6. 20 times 5 is 100, 100 plus 6 is 106. So 100% of 120 is 120. And let's put that in a bubble. So we're going to split that bubble up to find out what 10% is. And to find 10%, all we need to do is divide it by 10. So divide 120 by 10, you get 12. And then we want to split that bubble up again into 5%. And 5% is found just by halving it again. And so that would be, or just halving it, so that would be half of 12, which is 6. We could do with 1% as well. And we're trying to get to 26%, so we'll do 1%. So dividing the 10% by 10 again, 1.2. And we could do with 20%, and 20% just means we're going to double the 10%. So double 12 will be 24. So to work out 26%, we need to add these together to get to 26. So we're going to add these numbers here together. Okay, so we've got a 6, a 1.2, and a 24. And we're adding them together. And that would be 11, so carry the 1, that would be 3. Now, it says to decrease it by 26%. So 26% is 31.2, so we need to subtract that. So we're going to do 120, take away 31.2. So I need to borrow 1 from the 2 to make that a 10, borrow 1 there to make that a 10, and that would be a 9. So 10 take away 2 is 8. 9 take away 1 is 8. And there's a 1 here, so we need to borrow that 1. That's 11 take away 3, which is 8. So our answer is 88.8. First thing I'm going to do to answer this question is I'm just going to quickly draw out the shape again, just so I can kind of show the calculations a bit easier. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do on the diagram is convert all of these lengths to centimetres. So we've got 4,200, 1,200, 2,400, and 1,800. And next I'm going to convert them into what the scale says they're going to be in our diagram. So a scale of 1 to 600 means 600 in real life, and this diagram is showing the real life situation, is 1 on our diagram. So I've converted them all in centimetres, and now I need to work out how many centimetres there are going to be on our diagram. So I'm going to start with the 4,200, and all you need to do is divide it by 600, and I get the answer of 7. So it's going to be 7 centimetres on our diagram. 1,200 divided by 600, it's going to be 2. So that's going to be 2 centimetres on our diagram. 2,400 is obviously going to be 4 centimetres. And 1,800, divide that by the 600, it's obviously going to be 3. So it's going to be 3 centimeters. So now we know what it's going to be on our diagram. We draw it. So we're going to do 7 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across there. I'm going to do 2 down. So 1, 2, 4 across. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do the left hand one first, I think. So we're going to do 3 down here. And then we just kind of join it up with what's left over. And that's our diagram. So with a stem and leaf diagram, the numbers in the middle often represent tens. They could be units. So we look at the key first of all, and we see that 3 line 9 means 93. So the numbers in the middle are going to represent 10. So this is a 90. Now we're looking for English, so this will be 92. So our first number will be 92. Then this will be 10 tens and a 4. So it would be 104. 11 tens and 1. So 111, and then 11 tens and 2. So to find the median, we go cross out the biggest and smallest until we're left with 1 or 2 in the middle. Here we're left with 2. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add the 104 to the 111, and we're just going to divide that by 2. So when we do that, we get 107.5 or 0.5. So our answer is 107.5. So we're going to track the amount of eggs needed to make a certain amount of cupcakes. So we're given in the question that it's 6 cupcakes requires 4 eggs. And what we're going to do is we're just going to work out how many eggs is required for 1 cupcake. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. And that's for 1 cupcake will be 2/3 of an egg. And we're looking to make 18 cupcakes, so I'm going to times that by 18 on both sides. So for 18 cupcakes, 2/3 times 18 is going to be 12 eggs. So we're going to require 12 eggs. Something else we could have done to go straight there is just times the amount of cupcakes by 3 and times the amount of eggs by 3. To find the surface area of the cuboid, I'm just going to label the faces and do them individually. So we've got A, which is 24 by 13. So we're going to do 24 times 13, which is 312. Next we're going to do B, which is this one at the top, and it's 24 across and 8 is the length. So 24 times 8, which is 192. And finally C on this side here, which is going to be 13 times 8, which is 104. Now notice that the faces all have the exact same face on the opposite side. So this one at the back is also A, this one at the side is also C, and the one at the bottom is also B. So what I'm going to do is add up all the areas of the squares and double it. So to work out the surface area, we're going to do 2 times and then 312 plus 192 plus 104, and that will give me 1,216 centimeters cubed squared, because it's an area. Mode just means the most common or most frequent, and modal is exactly the same. It's just the most frequent amount of coins we're looking for. So the students who had 3 coins in their pockets came up 15 times. Students had 4 coins in their pocket, well there were 16 of them. There were 15 students who had 5 coins, 17 students who had 6 coins, and 12 students who had 7 coins. So the most frequent amount of coins a student has in their pocket will be 6, because it happens 17 times, which is more than any other amount of coins. A side elevation is the view you'd get if you were standing at the side of a shape. So I'm standing here, and it's the view I'll get. Well, it would be this trapezium here. And to know which side is the side and which one's the front, well, the front is always going to be labelled. They do normally label the sides as well for you. So we're going to draw this trapezium. So the top bit is 3, then it's 6, then it's 8. So I'm just going to start off with the bottom actually, that might be easier, and draw the 8 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to do the 6 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like I left just enough room. Then I'm going to do the 3 across. 1, 2, 3. And then all I need to do is just join up the start and the finish to complete the trapezium. All probabilities have to add up to 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away these probabilities away from 1. So we're going to do 1 take away 0.09 plus 0.13 plus 0.18. And so that's going to be 0.4. 1 take away 0.4 is 0.6. To find the perimeter of a shape, you just find the distance around it. So you pick a point and just start walking around the shape. So we're going to walk down this shape side, and we're going to write down that 8. And we're just going to add all the lengths of the triangle that we go down. So the next one is 6 centimeters. So we're going to add that 6. And then finally, this 3 centimeters here. And we stop because we've returned to where we started. Add those together and you get 17, and the units will be centimeters because perimeter is a distance. To work out the area of a rectangle, we just multiply the width and the length. Here they are mixed numbers, so all we do is the width times the length. Now when you multiply with fractions, always make them top heavy first, or improper, and to do that you times the big number by the bottom and add it to the top. So we're going to do 1 times 2 and add it to the top, so 3 over 2. Same with this one, 1 times the 3 at the bottom, added to the top. 1 times 3 is 3, add to the top is 5. Now we've got to get the numerator, we don't need to get the numerator the same, we're multiplying. All we do now, really easily, is just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. So we've got to convert 15 over 6 into a mixed number because it asks for a mixed number. So 15, how many 6's go into 15? Well, we're first of all going to have 2 whole ones, and how many left over? There are going to be 3 left over. Now, 3 over 6 is the same as 1/2 because we can divide top and bottom by 3. So our answer is 2.5. So Factorise means to put it into a bracket, and it looks like it's a quadratic here, but it's actually just a linear factorising. Because we don't have a number term. So we're going to just use one bracket for this. And looking at these terms, I'm going to focus first on the numbers. So 20 and 30, I can divide both of those by 10. And that will leave 2 and 3. So that's the numbers done. Next I'm looking at the t terms. So we've got t squared there and a t there. So we can divide out a t, but that will leave a t on the first term. And finally I'm going to look at the u, and there's just a u on both of them I can factorise out, and actually that just leaves nothing on the inside of the bracket. Now always when you do this, expand the bracket to check if you've made any mistakes. So I'm going to do smiles and rainbows. There's loads of different methods. So 10 times 2 is 20, t times t is t squared, and then the u, plus 10 times 3 is 30 times t times u. So we know we've got the right answer. So our answer is 10tu brackets 2t plus 3. To find the pressure, we need the area and the force. And we're given the force in the question, and so all we need to do is find out what the area is, which will be the 7 times the 9, which will be 63 centimeters squared, and the force is given to us in the question. So what we can do is write down the pressure formula, which says that pressure equals the force divided by the area. Force is given to us as 2268. The area we've calculated is 63. Divide the 2 and you get 36. So it's going to be 36 newtons per centimetre squared. Whenever you have north lines, they will always be parallel. So what we have here is we have a straight line going through two parallel lines, which are our two north lines. And therefore, this angle here is going to equal this angle here. And the reason for that is that the two angles are alternate, they're Z angles. So we can say that that is 135, and I always like to try and show the examiner the reasons. So that's because it's alternate angles. And we know also that angles on a point add up to 360. So this red angle represents the bearing of A from B. And so to find this angle out, what we're going to do is just 360 take away 135. And the reason for that is angles on a point equal 360 degrees. And when we work that out, we get the answer of 225. So our bearing is 225 degrees. On a scatter graph, an outlier is a point which doesn't fit the pattern. And as we can see here, all of these coordinates fit kind of a nice line going down there. So they all are showing a trend. But we've got this point here that's nowhere near that trend at all, and that's what we call an outlier. So we know that these are going up in twos, so this will be 28, so the x coordinate will be 28, and this will be 19. So our coordinate will be 28, 19 for our outlier. Integer just means whole number, so we're looking for all the whole numbers that satisfy these two inequalities. Well, the first inequality says that it has to be greater than 3. So the smallest number that is greater than 3 is 4. The second inequality says it has to be less than or equal to 8. So I'm just going to keep going until I get to a number that is less than or equal to 8. It can't be 9 because 9 is not less than or equal to 8. So our answer is 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So for this question, we need to understand the different types of graphs from different functions. So if we have a reciprocal graph, it looks something like this and like this. It could be the other way around, and it could be distorted, but it basically goes down to a point along here. It goes to infinity, and it goes to infinity along a point over here. And obviously those positions could change. Then we've got a linear graph. A linear graph is just any straight line, so just any kind of straight line, either up or down. And this doesn't look like either of those. Then we've got a exponential graph. An exponential graph just starts really small and then just really increases like that and just keeps going up. And here we kind of have that, obviously the other way around, it starts going down. But here it's actually going up, so it can't be a reciprocal graph. So the graph that this is, or could be, is a quadratic graph because it's a nice U shape. So if we carry this on, it could be a nice U shape. It could also be a cubic graph as well. So it could go up and then down and then up, and that's a cubic graph. But the most obvious one is a quadratic graph. So quadratic function. So it's really important, first of all, we make clear about how we convert things. So if I've got a unit in kilometers and I want to convert it into meters, then we know we just times it by 1,000. So 2 kilometers is 2,000 meters. But if I have something in kilometers squared and I want to convert it into meters squared, I actually times it by 1,000 squared, which is 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, so I'm actually timesing it by not 1,000, but 1,000 squared. So that's another 3 zeros. You can see here that that's 1,000,000. So we times it by 1,000,000. So 13 kilometers squared is going to be the 13, and then it's going to be times by 1,000,000. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 13 million. Now, it says here the farmer must pay 1 pence tax for every metre squared. So this is going to be 13 million metres squared. And so that's going to cost him, or her, 13 million pence. But the answer is going to be in pounds. So we just need to get rid of 2 of the zeros at the end. So it's going to be 13, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be £130,000. So we're told that from 14 people who liked football, so we've got 14 people here who said yes, they do like football. So we can fill up the 14 here. Now, we're told we started with 31. Therefore, if 14 liked football, then 17 must have not liked it. Carrying on the sentence, it says 4 like rugby. So 4 of those liked rugby. And we had 14 to start off with, down this strand. And so that must mean that we've got 10 who don't like rugby. So of those 14, 4 liked rugby. So therefore 10 must have not liked rugby. But what about the bottom section? This part here. We've got 17 who didn't like football. Well, it says from the people who did not like football, 6 liked rugby. So we've got 6 there, and that must mean that we've got 11 who did not like rugby. If I start by drawing a number line, and we're going to put the 110 in the middle. Now I'm going to label the next one down and the next one up. It says to the nearest 10, so the next one down would be 100, and the next one up would be 120. Now we're interested in the cutoff, and the cutoff point is between the two numbers. Okay, so that's the cutoff point. If it goes above that cutoff point, it would have rounded to the next number up. So if the number was here, it would round to 120. If the number is on the cutoff point, which we can see is going to be 115, then we know it would round up. So we need to find the biggest number in this part here. So this part here, and it includes this line actually, so it includes this line. So all the numbers that would have rounded to 110 would have been 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, which would be here. But if it was 115, it would have rounded to 120. So 114 is the biggest number it could have been before rounding to 120. And we know it didn't round to 120 because in the question it says it's 110 to the nearest 10. So our answer is 114. So in this question we're told that the centre of enlargement is at 6, 4. So let's just put across there. And what I'm going to do is just draw ray lines from the centre of enlargement, and we're just going to go through each of the corners of our shape A, and we're going to just check whether it goes through the corner of shape B, which it does on this one. Let's just keep going. Yeah, it does on this one. But it does not on this one. So it says find the coordinate of the vertex of shape B that is not correct. So the coordinate is this one here, and so that would be -4, 1. So the rules of indices state that if you have a power inside and outside of a bracket, we just multiply them together. So it's 10 to the power of -12 times -12. 2 negatives make a positive, and 12 times 12 is 144. This looks like it's a really tricky question, and it is a little bit tricky, but it's a little bit easier than maybe it looks. The highest common factor is found when you have the prime factors, which we do, of two numbers, and you put them into a Venn diagram. Then you can find the prime factor, the highest common factor, by multiplying all the numbers in the overlap. So we're going to rewrite these numbers. Just instead of squareds, we're just going to write them out without index form. Just makes it a bit easier. And so I'm just removing the squares. And we're going to draw ourselves a Venn diagram. So let's just do a rectangle at the outside. I'm going to try and do some nice circles here. Try my best anyway. Okay, so on the left hand side we have the 450, on the right hand side we have the 132. So we'll start with the 450 and the numbers. So actually looking at the numbers, looking at the factors at the top, the prime factors, we can see they both have a 2 in them. So I cross them both out and put 2 in the middle. We can see they both have a 3 in them. So cross those 3's out and put a 3 in the middle. And then 450 has a 3, a 5 and a 5. And 132 has the 2 and the 11. So to find the highest common factor, as I said, you multiply all the numbers that are in the middle. And so the highest common factor will be 6. We're going to start off by just writing the decimal in the standard form, which is 4.3. And we're going to look at the power. Now, if the power is positive, it means the standard form number is a really big number. If it's negative, it means it's a very small number. And here it's negative, so we know it's a small number. Now we're going to do the amount of jumps that it shows in the power. So it says a 5 there, so we're going to do 5 jumps. And because it's a small number, we're going to go to the left to make it a small number. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. So the new decimal point is going to be here. All the jumps that we made, we're going to fill in with zeros. And because it's decimal, we're going to start it off with a 0. So our new number is, or our ordinary number is 0.00043. Now it's important to realise that we shouldn't really think about it as jumping the decimal point. We're actually shifting the number. But it's all relative and it's a lot quicker just to move that decimal point. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power 4 w to the power 5 and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power 4 to w to the power 5, but if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, it's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11 and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power 4's together, and remember with indices, if you times 2 powers of the same base and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8, and we're going to add the w to the power 5's together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8 w to the power of 10. So we're asked to express tq in terms of p and q. Well, we've got another q here because all of these are congruent parallelograms. And we have a p there. So if we're starting at t and getting to q, we can go along this path here and down this path here. So we're going backwards down q, in fact backwards down 2 lots of q, and then the correct way down p. So it's either minus 2q plus p or p minus 2q. We don't have to for this question, but it might be helpful to draw a Venn diagram for this. And we've got green and brown leaves. So we'll have green on the left and brown on the right. So green and brown. And we're told that there are 19 green and 15 brown and 6 that were not green and brown. So the only number we can put in is the 6 on the outside of the Venn diagram. We're told that 19 are green, but we don't know which, either they're in here or a bit of both. So what we can do is we can label the center X, and we can say that there are 19 take away X just green, because they could have been both green and brown. And for the brown we can do the same, so it'd be 15 minus X. And for the next step, we know that all of them together add up to 32, because it says in the question. So we're going to add all of these, the 19 minus X, the 15 minus X, and the 6 together, and we know that equals 32. And let's get our solving lines in. So we've got minus X and minus X, so that's be a minus X. And we've got 19 plus 15 plus 6, which will be 40, equals 32. We're going to take away the 40 both sides. And we can just times by minus 1 both sides to make them both positive. So now we know X is 8, we can start filling in the Venn diagram. So it's 19 take away 8, which will be 11. X is 8, so we know that that's 8. And 15 take away 8, which is 7. So find the amount that were green and brown. We know it's going to be 8. So this question is a simultaneous equations question. And so we're going to have to write down some equations. So it says 2 apples and 3 pears cost £3.80. So 2 apples, I'm going to call it A for the price of an apple, plus 3 pears, so 3p, cost £3.80. Now I'm going to do this as 380 just because it's easier to work with integers rather than decimals. And it says 3 apples, so 3a, plus 8 pears costs £7.80. or 780 pence. Okay, so the first thing I do is try and get these numbers the same. So 3 and 8, they both go into 24, so I need to make them both 24. And what some people do is they just label this A and this B. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply everything in equation A by 8, so that this becomes 24. So it's going to become 8A. And so we're going to times the 2A by 8, which will be 16a plus 24p, and 380 times 8 is 3040. And we're going to do the same with b, but this time we're going to times it by 3, so we're going to have 3b. And we're just going through everything here and we're timesing it by 3. So 9a plus 24p, which is good, that's what we wanted. And 780 times 3 is 2,340. So now we've got both of these the same coefficient. What we can do is we can eliminate going downwards. Now, if they are the same, the S in same is the S in subtract. If they were different signs, so if these weren't both positive, if one of them was negative, different, the D in different is the D in add. So here they are the same, so we are going to subtract. And we're going to subtract going downwards. So we're going to start off by doing, and I can just do a little line here to show what we're doing. So we're subtracting going downwards, and we're going to do 16a take away 9a, which will be 7a. 24p take away 24p, which is nothing, which is why we did that, is to eliminate them. And then 3040 take away 2340 will be 700. Then I can put my lines in, and all I need to do now is just divide both sides by 7, and I get A equals 100. So we know that apples cost 100, or £1. We need to work out what pears cost. So I just need to pick one of the equations. I'm just going to pick this top one here, and I'm going to write it out. But instead of A, we know that A is £1, or 100 pence. So plus 3p equals 380. So that's going to be 200 plus 3p is 380. And then again, I'm just going to draw my lines down. And we're going to subtract 200 from both sides. So it's going to be 3p equals 180. And then we're going to just divide by 3 both sides. And we've got p equals 60. So a pair costs 60. Now we can check this by using the other equation there. So 3 times 100 is 300, plus 8 lots of 60 is going to be, what's that, 480? So it's going to be 780. So we know that we've got it right. So here we're given a right angle triangle, and the question involves 2 lengths and angles, so we know we're going to be using trigonometry. So let's start by labelling our sides. The one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, the one opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now notice the hypotenuse doesn't have a number or letter next to it, so let's get rid of that. Next thing we do is draw our trigonometry triangles. So we've got SO, Ca, Toa. Now we've crossed out the H, so we're not going to be interested in the SO or the Ca. So it's going to be Toa. Toa is short for tan the angle equals opposite over adjacent. The angle is 60, so it's tan 60 equals x over 1. And so now here we're looking for the exact value of x. So if I times both sides here, let's just get our solving lines in here, and times both sides by 1, or just get rid of the fraction, we end up with x equals tan 60. Now you need to know off by heart what tan 60 is, and we can work it out just briefly by drawing a right angle triangle. Sorry, not a right angle triangle, an equilateral triangle. So that is going to be 60 by 60 by 60. And we're going to put all the lengths around the outside as 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down the middle. And I'm just going to cut it into half. And so the length at the bottom will be 1. And using Pythagoras, we've got to work out the length here. It's going to be 2 squared, which is 4, take away 1 squared, which is 1, will be 3, and then square root it would be root 3. So we know that's going to be root 3. So looking at labelling the sides here, just pick a colour to make sure it's nice. So we've got the hypotenuse here, we've got the adjacent here, and then the root 3 will be the opposite. And so we're looking for tan 60. So tan, as we know, is the opposite over adjacent. And so tan 60 is going to be the opposite, which is root 3, over the adjacent, which is 1 in our diagram there. So tan 60 is equivalent, it's the same as root 3 over 1, or just root 3. So the thing we know about triangles is their angles add up to 180. So what we can do is we can say w squared plus 84 plus w plus 3w equals 180. And let's just put that together. So it's w squared plus 4w plus 84 equals 180. Now, with quadratics, whenever we're looking to solve, we want to have it equal to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away the 180 from both sides, so it equals 0. So we've got the w squared plus the 4w, but we want to take away the 180 from it, which will give us minus 96 equals 0. So with quadratics, when we're trying to solve them, we need to put them into brackets. And to do that, we need 2 numbers that add together to make the 4 here and multiply together to make the 96 here. So just going through different numbers for 96, and you can try different ones. The first letter in the bracket would be W, first thing in the bracket would be W. And I think it's going to be, well, it's going to be a positive and a negative to get that negative there. 96 is 12 and 8, so it would have to be, let's have a think. It'd have to be a positive 12 and a negative 8 to add together to make a positive 4. And 12 times minus 8 is minus 96. That works. And to solve, we look at the left-hand side first and get that equal to 0. So w plus 12 equals 0, and then solve it. So get our lines in. Take away 12 both sides. W equals minus 12. And we get the left-hand or the right-hand side, get that equal to 0. W minus 8 equals 0. Lines in. Add 8 both sides. W equals 8. Now we've got two answers here, but it says value of W. Well, we can't have a negative angle. So we know we're looking for W to be positive. So the answer must be 8. What I'm going to start off by doing is rearranging this equation so that it kind of matches this one. So I'm just going to write it down. And we want the n to be minus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my rearranging lines in. And we're just going to add 10 to both sides. Now, we've already got this line drawn for us on this graph. And so all we need to do is draw this line. So we've got y equals 10x squared plus 8x minus 2 drawn for us. We just need to draw this line, which is y equals 10, and see where they cross over to find the solutions. So y equals 10 will be all the way up at the top. Let's just make sure I get it nice. There we are. I need to move that up a little bit. There we are. And let's read off the values that that gives us. So it comes down here, and it comes down here. So the values it comes down to are minus 1.6 and 0.8. And those are our solutions. There are a couple of different methods for drawing a graph, and we're going to do the cover-up method. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to completely cover up, and I'm going to do this with a little highlighter maybe. I'm going to cover up the minus 3y. I'm just going to cover up the y term. And so what that leaves me with is 10x equals minus 30. So if I get my solving lines in, I just need to divide by 10 both sides. So we've got x equals minus 30 divided by 10 is going to be minus 3. Now x equals minus 3 gives us the x-intercept. So we know that the x-intercept is minus 3. What is the x-intercept? Well, it's where the graph will hit the x-axis. So it'll hit it at minus 3. I'm going to do the same thing again. But this time I'm going to cover up the x term. I'm just going to cover this up. And so we're going to end up with minus 3y equals minus 30. Again, put my lines in. And this time I'm going to have to divide both sides by minus 3. And so we've got a minus divided by minus, which is a positive. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So our y-intercept will be 10. Y equals 10. So that will be here. And we know that the minimum amount of points we need to be able to draw a graph accurately, well, to draw a graph are 2. So if we've got 2 points, we can draw a graph. And here we do have 2 points. So I'm just going to draw in this graph as best as I can. and make sure your graph goes for the complete graph. Then make sure your line continues on for the complete graph and don't just draw it between the x and the y intercepts. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.